it's not God who is giving these instructions, especially with respect to slavery. If you read that, the first verse of that chapter, Exodus chapter 21, it says, "And these are the laws you shall give unto them." This is God speaking to Moses, apparently. So anything that follows there about where to buy slave, who to beat, how to treat them, how to inherit them, it's God's verbatim, word for word. Number two, in the same Deuteronomy, God speaks about, God gives the same instructions, but now how to treat children. He says, if a child is disobedient to you, you're supposed to take them out of the village and beat them to death, stone them to death.
Children?
Yeah, if your son is disobedient to you, if you follow Deuteronomy chapter 22, you're supposed to take them out of the village and call the villagers and stone him to death.
Kwani si kwenda Sunday school?
Funny enough, I also had the same problem. I was brought up in church. I went to a church school from primary. I did CLE all the way to Form 4. I was a youth leader. But most of these verses, I had them when I became an atheist. I thought maybe I'd be reading a different verse. And
you had to become an atheist first so that you can see the verses like that?
Because when you go to church, they'll always cherry pick. They'll always choose the Sermon of the Mount, the nice ones, and teach them for you. But they will never teach you the ones that are controversial. And or if they teach you, they will teach you in a way that you are not supposed to question them, or the way he's saying that it's not for me to interpret or for you, it's for people who have learned it. And this brings also me to my final question. So should we be giving Bible to kids who are in school, who have not gone to theology school to learn how to interpret it? Should we give a kid a book that says, if you rape this girl, you're going to be punished by forcing to marry her? Well, maybe there's a context to that, as he's saying. But do you think a kid who has not gone to school should be given a book that says that? If I wrote a book and said that, I took that verse and wrote the verse, I'll go to prison.
But don't you think that's not a point of concern, because they have to be atheists first so that they can see the Bible like that?
No.
Because I have read the Bible too, but I've never gotten to the point. I didn't go that deep in reading the Bible from that perspective, because when you say it like that, it's scary.
It is. It should be, because...
It should be.
It should be, because this is the same book that people use as a moral guidance. So if this is the words that are contained in a book that is a moral guidance, then there's a problem. And they are also you see, he says, with respect to women, he says there are verses that empower women, there are verses that demean women, like the one I've read. So the burden of explaining this should be on the Bible. Why is God giving contradicting instructions? He's all-powerful, he's all-knowing. Why should he tell you go east and also go west at the same time? He should be clear on, should women participate in church activities or should they not? Okay,
and a curious question. Your journey into atheism, was it a process, or one day you are just praying and then you're like, ah?
Of course, it's a process of questioning, but I wouldn't say it was a journey to atheism. It was, I was trying to understand these questions. I was trying to understand these questions of the Bible so that I can explain them to other people, because I was also receiving them as a senior youth member in the church. And in the process, I realized there's just so much that I cannot defend, because eventually you get to some point, you hit a wall, and now you have to tell them, stop questioning. You have to have faith. You have to believe. Yes. God doesn't like, this questioning and whatever. So you see someone with a genuine question, and then you tell them, stop questioning, just believe. You're not helping them, and you're not helping yourself. Because he has said very well, people should go to the Bible to seek knowledge. Okay. That's what I did, and I turned out to be an atheist.
Okay, and now being an atheist means you've stopped believing in what you grew up believing in. So does that mean that you now become a full-blown sinner?
First of all, sin is a concept that religious people made. It's not.
There's nothing like sin.
It's a construct. There's nothing like objective morality. It's subjective. Let me give you an example. If I took a pen and passed it on here, that action can have three implications. It can be moral, it can be immoral, or it can be neither of the two. It can be amoral. If I'm passing the pen so that he can stab you, my actions become immoral. If I'm passing to him a pen so that he can give you to help you because you don't have a pen, my act becomes a moral act. So the act of passing a pen is neither moral or immoral. And that applies to every act. It depends with how it affects, whatever you do, how it affects the people around you. It's what makes it moral or immoral. Even, just another example, if you're in a mall with a gun and you just shoot someone, that action could be either moral or immoral. If you're shooting a terrorist who is killing other people, that's a moral act. If you're shooting people randomly, that's an immoral act. It's the same act of shooting. So morality, sin, is something that was created together with religion and all these characters to try and control the society, which was the only way that the Roman Empire and the pagans could control this society, because by then the religion was for the elite, what is correctly calling the Levites, and the leadership. So it's about interpretation. It's about interpretation, and it's not objective. Sin is, I'm not a sinner.
Yes.
Or I'm not a good one. I do things that I minimize the negative effect on people around me and maximize their well-being. If that makes me a good person, so be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the hypertronics of the atheist.
Okay.
Yes. So if you sit down with Morris, to some extent, he would convince you of his point of view, right? So from a preacher's perspective, and knowing what the world is becoming nowadays, people getting more exposed to literature that opposes the traditional Bible and the church, how does the person who is rooted in Christ, how does this person who is rooted in Christ know that they are on the right path? How do you know that you're talking to God and not your feelings?
I'll begin by saying this. I'll still insist on this point. His system of interpreting the Bible is faulty. And so all the arguments he's making are based on error. Like, for example, he's insisting on the issue of slaves. We know from Bible history that the first book was written by Moses, and the world had been in existence for quite some time. So when Moses was writing, he had to address every aspect of life. And there were slaves in the world at that time. So he could not just ignore it. God was not endorsing the issue of slaves.
Yes.
But God was saying, I realize that this is what the world has become.
Was he condemning it?
When you look at the Bible as a book, not as verses, the Bible is one book, the mind of God. You do not come to the Bible. We are blessed today, we have the entire book. We avoid looking at the Bible in terms of verses, lines, and precepts. We look at it as an entire book. And you follow the revelation, because when you follow a certain teaching, you follow it from when it began and the last thing that is said on the same topic. Therefore, you get a proper understanding of what the Bible is saying on the topic. But what these guys are doing is they are picking verses at random.
Okay.
And they're interpreting it to condemn God.
But then someone would ask, if our God is a perfect God, and in this case, I'm speaking as a Christian, right? Why wouldn't God present a perfect doctrine or guidebook for us to avoid misinterpretation from the people who are being pulled by the other camp, as some would assume?
God presented a perfect book. It is the corruption in people's minds that is making it look faulty. But the Bible is perfect.
So interpretation is the work of the devil?
No, men with corrupt minds. Because they need to support their faith and their belief and their system and their thesis. So they corrupt. Just like, if I may use an example.
Yes.
We have very many corrupt doctors in this country. Do we condemn the entire medical field?
No.
We have very corrupt police officers in this country. Do we condemn the entire police force?
No.
We have very corrupt preachers. Do we condemn all churches in one stroke of the pen?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, he lacked teaching, and I want to apologize to him and to every other Kenyan listening. If you ever go to a pastor and he tells you just believe, where uhitaji kuelewa hii kitu, just believe, that's error on the part of the preacher, because in the book of Malachi, the Bible instructs preachers and priests.
Okay.
The mouth of a priest is supposed to give knowledge and wisdom.